Okay, 7.8, discussion review of policy DJF. I started on this, believe it or not, 3 years ago, and we've been so busy with getting stuff in line and that it's kind of taken a back shelf, and our business department has been doing a lot of changes, as we stated earlier, and the superintendent's making changes with personnel and that. The purchasing procedures are a very vital part of how we spend dollars and tax dollars, and how we go about our everyday business. And you know, it's a plateful for our business administrator to follow this and to guide her administration to do what they need to do to get us to that point of following policy. So I just wanted a rough overview. I have some other changes to be made coming up in a few areas of wording. I didn't want to get into it. I just wanted to bring it to light to the board tonight, and then I'll bring some more for a first reading for a few changes at the September 5th meeting. But there was just a few things, you know, if you've got it in your packet and you know, you go to page 2 and it runs down expense and reimbursement, vehicle equipment maintenance repair. It spells it out. A lot of things are done on an everyday routine. We're not looking to change that. That's the way of doing business. What I'm concerned about is moving forward here. There's a lot of projects that get put forward that we don't have a lot of input on, which I think will create a more efficient that, oh, what about this or what about that, as a board where we're fiscally responsible to do that part for our community and be elected for, and to help our business administrator with our backgrounds to maybe pick up on something that we may need or didn't see in a document or that. So, and then I go down on the second page into purchase orders, and then if you go all the way down, I'm gonna look to make some changes here in 5, 6, 7, 8, but the biggest thing is that purchases over 100,000 and over shall require the approval of the superintendent or business administrator and school board. That just concerns me. I've done a lot of research over the years. Most districts are 5 to 20,000. Anything over that comes to us. I'm not talking educational expenses, I'm talking projects, buying stuff outside of the education part of it. And you know, purchase orders over 10,000 and under 100,000 shall require the signature of the superintendent or business administrator. You know, some of this stuff I want to just change a few words. You know, as far as the 100,000, you know, it should be a much lower value in that. I look at between 5 and 15,000 is what an average of 30 different school districts I looked at. Then everything above that comes to us. We can look at it. Is this included? Is that included? Approve it, and it moves on. So competitive pricing is Article D. If you go on to page 3, verbal quotations are 3 qualified for 1,000 to 5,000. That's great. Written quotations for at least 3 qualified vendors required for individual purchases 5 to 10,000. And copies of written quotations must be submitted with purchase order. Exceptions, of course, are if we're in the state contract, federal contract, you know, that's waived. It doesn't need any further. You know, you're getting the best pricing as you can under that. And then if you get down to Section 4, purchasing specifications for some equipment materials purchases, excess of 10,000, specifications must be reviewed business before processing. So there's just a few words I'd like to go through. And then advertising, a brief description of the item, service. It's got to be in 2 public places. And this is anything over $10,000. And that, so there's just a lot of information. I'd like to read through it, do these few word changes and submit it to you guys and to the superintendent for a first reading at the September 5th meeting. I don't want to get in too depth with it. I just wanted to bring it to light that this has been on my radar for many years, and I'd like to start getting this one off the plate, and there's a couple other policies later in the year that I'd like to look at. Is there any questions or any thoughts on anything I brought up that might jump out, or in that I felt as though, and I thought this for years, that, you know, $100,000 is an awful lot of money to spend without board approval. Not that we don't trust anybody, it's just we can put more input, put some more thought into it. I mean, you know, think back to when we did with the liner for 50-something thousand, and that took a lot of thought. So this would put it in the board's hand, say over 10,000, and be able to have a little more dialogue on any other money spent over that. So, good with that?
Yeah, I think anytime you're dealing in the public sphere, having those types of expenses be exposed in this type of setting is, it just, having our scrutiny involved just makes it look that much better for the public that's footing the bill for it.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions? All right, so I'll bring this back on September 5th, and do a bunch, yep, go ahead, Dan.
Oh, sorry, just two quick comments. So a lot of the times when we update policies, it's reacting to laws.
Yep.
I think another reason when we usually update policies is we see a problem, we want to solve it.
Yep.
So if you guys see a problem, I think that's what you're using this for. If there's a problem you see where things are going, you're trying to use this process to solve those problems. The only thing I would caution you from is if we go back to one of the policies we just did, this board isn't allowed to have standing committees to make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to create a policy where we could potentially have an hour's worth of financial approvals every meeting. When I worked in Keene for 4 years, they literally had a finance committee that met for 2 hours every month to basically complete the policies that were in place financially.
Yep.
If you guys want that, we could certainly do that. I don't know if everyone back here is going to be happy about that process, but you just want to be careful about those two things. You know, what problem are you trying to solve, and
Yep.
make sure it's manageable for you and the whole system too.
Well, I can tell you, I've been monitoring, like, through the manifest and projects we've done.
Yep.
That would be affected by this lowering 10,000, and I had maybe 30 items
Okay.
that would have affected it. It's
Okay.
just because we're moving forward into
Sure.
a lot of expenditures.
Yep.
It isn't, like I said, the education part is part of business.
Yep.
You know, you're not gonna need approval to pay, you know, an outside source $20,000 for the student for the month or that. This is purchasing items.
Stuff.
To make sure we get some say on, you know, instance, well, we can go to the softball field. You know, that was $100 grand.
Yep.
You know, that comes to us, we look at it, do you have this, do you have this, in that. You know, we didn't have that opportunity.
Yep.
So, you know, some stuff got missed.
Yep.
So we're gonna fix that. So I think moving forward, that's what this purchasing policy is. It's it's outside of the realm of the education business.
Got it.
It's for major expenditures. It's, you know, say you need $80,000 for new furniture, you know, it's a matter of just bringing it in, what do you need it for, explain it, everybody understands, and we okay it and gone. So that's what I was monitoring. I was concerned with bogging down Lisa with more.
Yep.
Where we're trying to get less on her plate. But I just think it's gonna help our other department heads do their job more efficient
Sure.
too. So that's what I'm trying to do, is make sure everybody else is taking some of that burden and following this purchasing policy that we quite haven't followed over the several years back. We are changing and making a lot of good moves, and I think this is gonna help our department heads say, we've gotta follow this, we've gotta bring this, if you want that, we've gotta go to the school board, so you better make sure you can present it, and we need it. So I just think it's gonna help us in spending in these areas that aren't budgeted, as well as are budgeted, but is it a need at
Got
this
it.
point?
Okay.
So it just helps us,
Sure.
you know, do a little more due diligence, so. That would be the reason for the changes, Dan. And I get your point
Yep.
with the finance. We don't want to spend 2 hours approving hundreds of items.
Yeah.
But it's just the major expenditures
Sure.
that kind of hits this. Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, and Dan, to your point, from a selfish standpoint, obviously, it also extends the amount of time that we have to put into this too.
For sure, no, I get it.
But for the sake of transparency,
Yep.
Yeah.
it seems to make the most sense in this realm
Sure.
to lower that limit.
Okay.
to me.
Good. Okay. I'll bring that back at the next meeting.
Oh, and Bob,
Yes.
as far as the point on the 3 qualified vendors, I think that's a no-brainer anytime you're negotiating to make sure that you're at least putting it out there to 3.
Yeah, and that just goes to some of the stuff me and Lisa will work on the website, because it'll show the 3 bids, you know, like to possibly have that as up on the, so we can send people to the business. Was that bid? Yes, this is the project for 800,000. Here are the bidders. This is who was selected and why.
Yeah, showing
Just
that
an
you're doing your
overview.
due diligence.
Right.
Absolutely.
So. All right.